Hello everyone, my name is Spencer Lewis, and as always, thank you for checking out my blog. Today I'm going to be talking about social entrepreneurship. Now, what is social entrepreneurship? Put simply, social entrepreneurs are people who try and solve society's most pressing problems, and by doing so in an innovative or creative way. This can involve fixing or looking to solve small problems on a community-wide scale, or maybe even smaller than that, to very large problems, including worldwide scale, maybe like trying to solve water problems in underdeveloping countries. Social entrepreneurs look at these problems with the approach of how can they go about impacting society in order to fix that problem. So what are the mistakes that social entrepreneurs often make? I'm lucky enough to have had the opportunity to work pretty extensively with some social entrepreneurs in the Reno area, and this kind of often comes in the form of working with nonprofits. Most nonprofit organizations have some kind of social entrepreneurial aspect to them. So the three problems that I most commonly saw in dealing with these different nonprofits, the first is that they treat their business like a nonprofit rather than treating it as if it were a for-profit. The one thing to get really clear here, folks, is that a nonprofit or a social entrepreneur needs to know that whatever they're doing, they're still running a business. And so if you only focus on the cause rather than focusing on things like the business aspects, your business isn't going to go very far, whether it be a nonprofit or a for-profit. So it's important to look at those aspects of the business, otherwise you're never going to fulfill that cause that you're trying to seek. The other big thing that I see is advertising and marketing, and that's one of the, I think, the worst thing about nonprofits, or at least relative to their for-profit counterparts, is that oftentimes social entrepreneurs think that by running their nonprofit and by solving a problem for people, that people are just going to naturally seek them out and come to them. And that is not the case. Even if you're offering something that's going to help someone, if they don't have any way of knowing about it, they'll never come to you. So that's one thing that I think really social entrepreneurs should take cue from the for-profit world, is that they have to get their name out there and they have to let people know what their service is. The other thing that I want to talk about, and this is kind of also a big problem, is scope creep within a nonprofit. This is a big problem, and it kind of has something, I think, to do with funding for nonprofits. The way that nonprofit businesses often get funded is through grants and through donations made by things like foundations, or sometimes individual donations. Individual donations don't tend to have a problem because you can promote your cause, and if people like that, they'll give you money. But when you look at things like foundations and grants, sometimes those entities have very specific stipulations on what they can donate to. And so if your nonprofit business falls close to what they're asking for, but not quite, sometimes what nonprofits will do to seek that funding is they'll tweak their model a little bit, or they'll kind of veer a little bit away from their mission in order to get that funding. This is a really common problem, and this was one that I saw very often with the nonprofits that we work for here in Reno, or that we kind of assessed to see how we could help them. And you know, I see at both points of it, because on the one hand, just like a business, it's imperative that you get that kind of funding that you need to sustain your business and to fulfill your nonprofit's mission. But on the other hand, if you go too far away from what the mission is in order to satisfy those grant needs, you're ultimately going to be veering away from the mission, and you're not going to do as good of a job at fulfilling it. So I think one of the biggest things that, in that last regard, that nonprofits and social entrepreneurs need to focus on is really staying true to what their mission is and what their purpose is. By doing so, it allows them to really hone in and it kind of creates a very focused target that they can go for. And ultimately, that will help out in the long run, because if you've ever had to deal with someone who's donating to a nonprofit, they are looking for the things that any other person would look for in a traditional for-profit business. They're looking for metrics, things like how are you making an actual impact. They want numbers, they want statistics. And so when you dilute your business by veering out of your scope, you're only hurting your ability to achieve those metrics and statistics that you're looking to do that show the value that you're creating in your nonprofit. Anyway, I'm Spencer Lewis. Thank you again for checking out my blog. I encourage you, if you like this, to follow me and subscribe, or you can follow me on Twitter at SpencerLewis88. Thanks.